Hello students, I am your Tanmay sir. Welcome you all to my channel Vidya Pro, ICSC and CBSC. Thank you all for your love, affection and like for this channel. So I am again requesting to all of you, don't forget to subscribe, like and share this channel. This will help all your friends to view the videos of this channel and get some knowledge out of this channel. Please like, share and most importantly subscribe this channel. Today in this video we are going to discuss the most important and most interesting subject, that is Nazism and the rise of Hitler. This is the third chapter of social science in CBSC curriculum of class 9. So let's start this video. First we will discuss the birth of Weimar Republic. The defeat of Imperial Germany and the abdication of the emperor gave the opportunity to German political parties opportunity to recast German polity. Clear? I hope all of you are clear. A National Assembly met at Weimar and established a German constitution with a federal structure. So the National Assembly met at Weimar and they established democratic constitution with a federal structure. They actually minded a democratic constitution where one central government and number of provincial governments will be there. So there will be one central government and all the provinces will have separate governments. Deputies were now elected to the German parliament or the Reichstag on the basis of equal and universal votes. Very important. The deputies will be elected on the basis of votes cast by all adults including women. That is very important. They included women also in the election system. Now, this republic, however, was not received well by its own people. This Weimar Republic, however, was not received well because the terms it was forced to accept after German defeat at the end of the First World War. So what was the reason for not welcoming this Weimar Republic? Because the terms it was forced to accept, that is Germany was forced to accept after its defeat at the end of the First World War. A peace treaty was signed at the Versailles with the Allies, was a harsh and humiliating peace treaty. Germany lost its overseas colonies, a tenth of its populations, 13% of its territories, 75% of its iron, 26% of its coal to France, Poland, Denmark and Lithuania. So Germany lost so many things because of this treaty. The Allied powers dematerialized Germany to weaken its power. So they demilitarized Germany to weaken its power. Germany was forced to pay compensation amounting to 6 billion pound. That is a hefty money. 6 billion pound at that time. The Allied armies also occupied the resource-rich Rhineland for much of 1920s. So the Allied armies occupied Rhineland for much of 1920s. Rhineland was resource-rich area. So Germany paid so many things or forced to pay so many things because of this First World War. Many Germans held the new Weimar Republic responsible for not only the defeat in the war but the disgrace at the Versailles. So the Germans held new Weimar Republic responsible for all these things, whatever we have discussed till now. Not only for this war but also for the Versailles Treaty. The effects of the war. The war had a devastating impact on the entire continent, both psychologically and financially. From a continent of creditors, Europe turned into one of the debtors. Unfortunately, the infant Weimar Republic was being made up to pay for the sins of the old empire. The Weimar Republic was held responsible, and Europe, once the continent of creditors, became one of the debtors. The Republic, that is the Weimar Republic, carried the burden of the war guilt and national humiliation and was financially crippled by being forced to pay the compensation. So the Republic carried the burden of this war guilt and national humiliation and was financially crippled by being forced to pay the compensation. Those who supported the Weimar Republic, mainly the socialists, Catholics and Democrats, became easy targets of attack in the conservative national circles. So conservative nationalist circles targeted those socialists, Catholics and Democrats. They were mockingly called the November criminals. So these nationalist circles mockingly called those socialist, Catholic and Democrats November criminals. This mindset had a major impact on the political development of the early 1930s. The First World War left a deep impact on European society and polity. Soldiers came to be placed above civilians. Soldiers were placed above civilians. Politicians and publicists laid great stress on the need for the man to be aggressive, strong and masculine. The media glorified trench life. The truth, however, was that soldiers lived miserable lives in those trenches. So the truth was, however, these soldiers lived miserable lives in these trenches. Trapped with rats, feeding on corpses, they faced poisonous gas and enemy shelling and witnessed their ranks reduced rapidly. Aggressive war propaganda and national honor occupied the center stage in the public sphere. So aggressive war propaganda was made and national honor occupied the center stage in public sphere. While popular support grew for conservative dictatorship that had recently come into being, democracy was indeed a young and fragile idea which could not survive the instabilities of interwar Europe. So, democracy was that time a young and fragile idea, and democracy could not survive the instabilities of interwar Europe. I hope all of you are clear whatever we have discussed till now. So, let us move to next part, political radicalism and economic crisis. Political radicalism was only heightened by the economic crisis of 1923. Germany had fought the war largely on loans they have taken for this war, sponsoring this war, and had to pay war reparations in gold. The depleted gold reserves at that time were very scarce. In 1923, Germany refused to pay, and the French then occupied its leading industrial area. Which industrial area? Ruhr, to claim the coal. So, the French army occupied the leading industrial area Ruhr to claim the coal. Germany retaliated with passive resistance and printed paper currency recklessly. Huge production of paper currency in Germany. With too much printed money in circulation, the value of German mark, the currency of Germany is called mark. With too much printed money in circulation, the valuation of German money, that is mark, fell down. In April, the US dollar was equal to, $1 was equal to 24,000 mark. In July, $1 was equal to 3,53,000 mark. Can you imagine? And it continued. In August, $1 equal to 46,21,000 mark. And in next few days, 9,88,60,000 marks for just $1. That is by December actually. The figure had run into trillions. As the value of mark collapsed, prices of goods soared. The image of Germans carrying cartloads of currency notes to buy a loaf of bread was widely publicized, evoking worldwide sympathy. All other countries were sympathetic to Germany. This crisis widely came to be known as hyperinflation, a situation when prices rise phenomenally high. What was Davos' plan? Eventually, the Americans intervened and bailed Germany out of the crisis by introducing the Davos plan, which reworked the terms of reparation to ease the financial burden of Germany. So the Americans intervened to rescue Germany, and they gave a plan, that is Davos plan, just to ease the financial burden on Germany. The years of depression, the years between 1924 and 1928 saw some stability. Yet this was built on sand. German investments and industrial recovery were totally dependent on short-term loans, largely from USA. This support was withdrawn when Wall Street crashed in 1929. Fearing a fall in prices, people made frantic efforts to sell their shares. On a single day, 24th October, 13 million shares were sold. This was the start of Great Economic Depression. Over the next 3 years, 1929 to 1932, the national income of USA fell by 50%. Factories shut down, exports fell, farmers were badly hit, and speculators withdrew their money from the market. The effects of this recession in the US economy were felt worldwide. The German economy was worst hit by this economic crisis. By 1932, industrial production was reduced to 40% of the 1929 level. Workers lost their jobs and were paid reduced wages. The number of unemployed touched an unprecedented 6 million. On the streets of Germany, you could see men with placards around their necks saying, willing to do any work. They were desperate for income. Unemployed youths played cards or simply sat at the street corners or desperately queued up at the local employment exchange. They were trying for job. As jobs disappeared, the youth took criminal activities and total despair became commonplace. The economic crisis created deep anxieties. Naturally, this kind of situation created deep anxiety and fears in people. The middle classes, especially the salaried employees and pensioners, saw their savings diminish when the currency lost its value. Small businessmen and the self-employed and the retailers suffered as their businesses got ruined. They were just finished. These sections of the society were filled with the fear of losing economic balance and forced to become unemployed. Only organized workers could manage to keep their heads above water, but unemployment weakened their bargaining power. Big businesses were in crisis. The large mass of peasantry was affected by a sharp fall in agricultural prices, and most importantly, women, they were in big trouble. They were unable to fill their children's stomachs and were filled with a sense of deep despair. So the situation of women and children were very sad. They were not able to feed their children. Politically also, the Weimar Republic was fragile. The Weimar Constitution had some inherent defects which made it unstable and vulnerable to dictatorship. So the constitution was also having some inherent defects. One was proportional representation. The first defect was proportional representation. This made achieving a majority by any one party a near impossible task, leading to a rule by coalitions. And the second defect was Article 48. What was written in Article 48? This Article 48 gave the President the powers to impose emergency, suspend civil rights, and rule by decree. Within its short life, the Weimar Republic saw 20 different cabinets lasting on an average of only 239 days, and a liberal use of Article 48. Yet the crisis could not be managed. People lost confidence in the democratic parliamentary system, which seemed to offer no solution of this crisis. The crisis in the economy, polity and society formed the background to Hitler's rise in the power. Born in 1889 in Austria, Hitler spent his youth in poverty. In the initial life, he spent his life in poverty. When the First World War broke out, he enrolled for the army, acted as a messenger in the front, became a corporal, that is non-commissioned officer, and earned medals for his bravery. He was a very brave person. The German defeat horrified him, and the Versailles Treaty made him furious, because that was not in favor of Germany. In 1919, he joined a small group called the German Workers' Party. I am again repeating, in 1919, after the First World War, he joined a small group called the German Workers' Party. He subsequently took over the organization and renamed it the National Socialist German Workers' Party. National Socialist German Workers' Party. This party came to be known as Nazi Party. In 1923, Hitler planned to seize control of Bavaria, march to Berlin and capture power. He failed and was arrested, tried for treason, that is, accused for betrayal of trust, but he was later released. The Nazis could not effectively mobilize popular support till the 1930s. It was during Great Depression that Nazism became a mass movement. As we have seen, after 1929, banks collapsed and businesses shut down, workers lost their jobs, and the middle classes were threatened with destitution. In such a situation, Nazi propaganda steered hopes of a better future. So Nazis steered hopes of a better future. In 1928, the Nazi Party got no more than 2.6% votes in the German parliament. that is the Reichstag. By 1932, however, it had become the largest party with 37% votes. Hitler was a powerful speaker. His passion and his words moved the German people. He promised to build a strong nation, undo the injustice of the Versailles Treaty, and restored the dignity of the German people. He promised employment for those searching for work and a secure future for the youth. He promised to weed out all foreign influences and resist all foreign conspiracies against the Germans. So he made all promises which the German people were looking to get. Hitler devised a new style of politics. He understood the significance of rituals and spectacle in mass mobilization. Nazis held massive rallies and public meetings to demonstrate the support for Hitler. So Nazis held massive rallies and public meetings to demonstrate the support for Hitler and instill a sense of unity among the people. The red banners with the swastika and the Nazi salute and the ritualized rounds of applause after the speeches were all part of this spectacle of power. Nazi propaganda skillfully projected Hitler as a messiah or a savior, as someone who had arrived to deliver people from this distress. So Nazi propaganda skillfully projected Hitler as a messiah, as someone who had arrived to take Germany out of all these problems. It is an image that captured the imagination of a people whose sense of dignity and the pride had been shattered and who were living in a time of acute economic and political crisis, and the Nazis propaganda showed or projected Hitler as a messiah at that particular moment. Now we will discuss about the destruction of democracy. On 30th January 1933, President Hindenburg offered the chancellorship of Germany to Hitler, the highest position in the cabinet of ministers to Hitler. Having acquired power, Hitler set out to dismantle the structure of democratic rule. So Hitler tried to dismantle the structures of democratic rule. A mysterious fire that broke out in the German parliament building in February facilitated his move. The fire decree of 28 February 1933 indefinitely suspended civic rights like freedom of speech, press and assembly. So Hitler immediately suspended civic rights like freedom of speech for the people, press and assembly that had been guaranteed by the previous Weimar Constitution. Then he turned on his archenemies, the communists, most of whom are hurriedly packed off to the newly established concentration camps. The repression of the communists was very severe. The repression of the communists were very severe. Out of the surviving 6,808 arrest files of Dusseldorf is a Dusseldorf is a small city of 500,000 population. Only 1440 were those of communists alone. They were, however, only one among the 52 types of victims persecuted, that is, treated cruelly or unfairly by the Nazis across the country. On 3rd March 1933, the famous Enabling Act was passed. This act established dictatorship in Germany. So, on 3rd March, through this Enabling Act, dictatorship in Germany was established. It gave Hitler all the powers to sideline parliament and rule by decree. All political parties and trade unions were banned except for the Nazi party. So there was only one party, that is Nazi party. Now, the state established complete control over economy, media, army and judiciary. Social surveillance and security forces were created to control and order the societies in ways the Nazi party wanted. So there was nothing against the Nazis' want. Whatever they wanted, the people can do only that thing. The media can write or show only that thing. Now, the reconstruction. Hitler assigned the responsibility of economic recovery to the economist Hjalmar Schacht, who aimed at full production and full employment through a state-funded work creation program. So, he tried full production and full employment policy through a state-funded work creation program. This project produced the famous German superhighways and the people's car, the Volkswagen, the famous Volkswagen. In foreign policy also, Hitler acquired quick success. Hitler was successful in foreign policy as well. He pulled out of the League of Nations in 1933 and reoccupied Rhineland in 1936 and integrated Austria and Germany in 1938 under the slogan "One People, One Empire and One Leader." He then went out to raise German speaking in Sudetenland and from Czechoslovakia and gobbled up the entire country. In all of this, he had the unspoken support of England, which had considered the Versailles Treaty too harsh. So England also supported Germany this time, and they also considered Versailles Treaty as unfair to Germany. This quick success at home and abroad seemed to reverse the destiny of Germany. Hitler did not stop here. Scott had advised Hitler against investing hugely in rearmament as the state still ran on deficit financing. Cautious people, however, had no place in Nazi Germany. Cautious people were not welcome in Nazi Germany. Scott had to leave. Hitler chose war as the way out of the approaching economic crisis. So, Hitler chose war to get out of this economic crisis. Resources were to be accumulated through expansion of territory. In September 1939, Germany invaded Poland. This started a war with France and England. England was initially supporting Germany, but when Hitler invaded Poland, they started to fight with Germany with France. In September 1940, a tripartite pact was signed between Germany, Italy and Japan, strengthening Hitler's claim to international power. Puppet regimes supportive of Nazi Germany were installed in a large part of Europe. By the end of 1940, Hitler was at the pinnacle of his power. So, here we are concluding the first part of this third chapter, and we will come back with the second part of this chapter very soon. This is very difficult to discuss the entire chapter in a single video. So, we have divided the video into two parts. This is the first part, and we will come back shortly with the second part of this video, where we will discuss about the remaining areas of this chapter. So, thank you for all of you who have seen this video, and please subscribe our channel so that we can bring lot more videos for you and your friends, and you all get some kind of knowledge out of this discussion. Please subscribe and share the video. Thank you, and we will come back very shortly. Bye.